What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? You're now tuned in with the best of the best, the greatest of the greatest, and that is myself. Hey, listen, man. Some of you all really need to start using your common sense. Some of you all really need to start using your common sense and also need to stop paying attention and stop feeding into this bullshit that the media tries to feed us. And again, I'm not talking to anybody specific because most of my crew and most of the people that I associate myself with, they know how to think for themselves. They know how to form their own opinions about things. Incidentally enough. And somebody needs to call out these so-called editors and bloggers and Twitter verify users for the bullshit that they give us. You know what I'm saying? And that's what I'm about to do. Starting with this guy. Now, I want to dedicate and shout out brother Lord Smarmy Pants. Fuck, I wasn't going to say his name. Fuck yeah, I'm going to say his name. Lord Smarmy Pants for bringing this article to mine and others' attention. Because it goes to, again, show what I and a lot of others are saying, have been saying. You know what I'm saying? And here's the thing. You can believe what you want to believe. You can say what you want to say. But we first have to look at things factually. We have to look at things from a more thought out perspective. And taking the words of an editor or a blogger or a Twitter verified user who just so happens to have a gazillion followers and just so happens to have a following to make himself look believable, that isn't necessarily the right way to handle things. And in spite of Aquaman's billion-dollar success, congratulations to James Wan and Jason Momoa and Amber Heard and Yahya Moten and the second, Nicole Kidman. In spite of the success of Aquaman, we still have people trying to attack DC, attack the fan base, call out the fan base. And today's video is proof of that. Will Matt Reeves' The Batman save DC Cinematic Universe? Or will it usher in the superhero studio's demise? With so many past, often flawed, takes on the Dark Knight, no wonder fans are nervous about meeting his next incarnation. Why would I be nervous? I'm not. I'm excited. This article, ladies and gentlemen, was apparently composed by Ben Child at Ben Child Geek on Twitter. If you guys want to follow him. And it goes like this. A lot is riding on Matt Reeves' The Batman, which a new report suggests is due to begin shooting in November, with or without Ben Affleck as the tortured Dark Knight, hopefully with. Warner Brothers' struggling DC Extended Universe's superhero movies currently lacks a central pivot, despite decent enough solo outings for Wonder Woman and Aquaman, and Man of Steel. The studio would love to see Reeves somehow come up with a movie that repositions the Caped Crusader at the heart of the DC world. And yet it is difficult to see how the main creative thrust behind the successful Planet of the Apes remake trilogy can carve out his own vision without taking Batman out of the Justice League and potentially the DCEU itself altogether. By making it work. Bruce Wayne surely needs to be given the chance to breathe the foul Gotham City air once again, free of responsibility for fending off attacks from bad CGI alien interlopers or resurrecting Superman due to his own foolhardy behavior. And I'm sure he will, given the fact that it's gonna be his own movie. Everything we've heard about Reeves' plan suggests he will take a back-to-basics approach, restoring the furrow-browed superhero to his roots as a sleuthsome Gotham City vigilante. Alright, stop the show. I'm Me personally, I'm kind of divided. I'm kind of, on one hand, I'm glad we don't know much about what Matt Reeves has planned for Batman, because once again, Twitter and these bloggers be like, "Oh, Matt Reeves confirmed this. Matt Reeves said that this person is gonna be in Batman. Oh, I'm hearing that Matt Reeves is gonna put this in Batman. This person, this character, Riddler, Calendar Man, ha ha ha." And again, yeah, no. But on another hand, I am obviously concerned. A lot of us are, but due to the fact that we still don't know the status of whether or not Ben Affleck will return. Um, Initially, the Batman, for those of you that are unaware, was going to strictly be his movie. He was going to not only star, but he was going to direct, and I think even write the film as well. And shout out to the Grandmaster Jay Oliva. He said that the script for the movie was the one of the best he'd ever read, and also we know Deathstroke was also going to be a part of the movie, which something I think would have been badass. Whether or not he will still be a part of the movie now that Matt Reeves is taking the reign remains unclear. But yeah, moving on. This has to be a good thing. For the last 3 years, ever since Zack Snyder's ill-fated Batman v Superman: Dawn of Justice failed to wow anyone outside of hardcore DC fans. Yeah, Batman v Superman: Dawn of Justice just is so ill-fated and bad that it still made almost 900 million, also grossed a hell of a lot of money with the ultimate edition releasing on Blu-ray. But yeah, it's just so bad that people took to Twitter to apologize, not only to for them for disliking Batman v Superman in the first place, but also apologize to Zack Snyder. But yeah, Batman v Superman is so bad. Mm, mm, mm. Warner has been trying and failing to convince the world that Batfleck was a good idea poorly managed. It did this by tweaking the movie's sequels and spin-offs to rid them of the worst knuckleheaded excesses of Snyder's films. But the truth is that casting Affleck was a terrible idea carried out terribly. And no amount of shoehorned comedy one-liners was going to save films such as Justice League from being roundly dismissed. Wow. Casting Affleck was a terrible idea carried out terribly. No, I disagree. I think the more I think about BVS, the more I like the idea of an older, more experienced Batman facing off against a god, an alien with these super god given abilities. Because a younger Batman in Batman v Superman's scenario would not make much sense. As a matter of fact, I think he would have definitely gotten his ass kicked. That's just me though. Point number two, I think that one of the many things the haters and the lovers of BVS can agree on is that Ben Affleck was one of the best components of BVS, regardless of what you or I may think of the film. Ben Affleck was one of the best components of the film. And me personally, I stand by the casting. I don't think it was a bad casting. I don't think it was a terrible idea. And I think that Ben Affleck wouldn't have signed on to play Batman if he didn't believe in the story itself. You know what I'm saying? The temptation must surely be for Reeves to mate with the Lazarus Pit and resurrect a new and more workable Batman, preferably played by anyone but Affleck. Suck my middle finger, Ben. Perhaps DC needs two cinematic universes, one based on the grimy Gotham underworld and its cavalcade of leering freaks and deviants, the other filled with sci-fi teen superheroes who wouldn't look out of place in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Once again, ladies and gentlemen, we seemingly can't write an article in relation to DC without bringing up the MCU. But yet I'm a professional. Mm, mm, mm. Such as Aquaman, Wonder Woman, and The Flash. Why does DC need two cinematic universes? Which, don't get me wrong, Joker, which will star Joaquin Phoenix, which will release in the fall, isn't going to be part of the DCU. It's a DC film, but it does not tie in directly to the DCEU because Jared Leto is still the Joker of the DCEU. Now, as a matter of fact, he is set to have his own film as well as star in the Joker Harley spinoff. But the idea that perhaps DC needs two cinematic universes really just doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Because then, I'm sure you, Ben, Child Geek, and so many others would say, where are the connections? This is out of place. This doesn't make sense. For the Batman of Christopher Nolan's Dark Knight trilogy, or the TV series Gotham, has often seemed about as likely to meet Superman or the other members of the Justice League as Luke Skywalker is to encounter Genghis Khan. It is quite possible to imagine the worst big screen cake crusaders, George Clooney or Val Kilmer, meeting just about anyone in the DC verse, even the buffoonish Shazam. Shazam isn't buffoonish. This article is very buffoonish, but Shazam is not buffoonish. Shout out to Zachary Levi and David Sandberg, by the way. That's because there is nothing stylistically singular about them at all, unless one is counting the bat nipples. Fuck you. Where other superheroes seem to grow as part of the ensemble, Batman, certainly based on our experience with the last few DC movies, only seems to diminish. And if you feel that way, maybe you should write WB. Talk to WB. Only seems to diminish. Perhaps Gotham's Dark Knight is simply too weird, too idiosyncratic a superhero to ever play nicely with others. I mean, intimidation is one of Batman's go-tos. The only question is why DC wasn't well aware of this, given that its own Lego Batman movie mined Bruce Wayne's extreme narcissism and an elegant misanthropy for comedy gold so successfully. So, you want him to be funny or do you want him to be Batman? Might the Batman see the emergence of a Dark Knight whose presence in the wider DC world is left pretty much open to question? And would this be such a bad thing? I mean, again, do you want him to be Batman or do you want him to be something else? It's possible Warner simply doesn't have the confidence in its own plans. Even though they just made a movie, they just released Aquaman that grossed $1 billion. Particularly after the lukewarm reactions to Justice League, a movie that wasn't what we were sold, wasn't what we were promised to manage the movie in any other way. Its entire approach to the DCU seems to have been a case of one step forward, 6 tentative steps back. So we're about as likely to see a considered Marvel-style route to the world building at this late stage as we are to see Joker giving up his life of crime and embarking on a new career as a supermarket shelf stacker. Perhaps this is for the best. If Warner Brothers is not naturally tuned to the slow burn producer-led cinematic universe frequency, aka Kevin Feige and the MCU, just go ahead and say it, Ben. The studio would be well advised to avoid ham-fistedly trying to keep on fitting square pegs into round holes. In that case, the only solution is to take the whole thing one movie at a time, which I think WB is finally doing, Ben. But instead of being patient and waiting until some actual confirmed news debuts online, you decide to write an article claiming that DC needs saving. The DC cinematic universe needs saving, despite Aquaman's billion-dollar gross. Maybe, just maybe, we need to take a hard look at Reeves' solo Batman outing before anyone can really imagine what shape the wider DC universe should be. Thank God this gentleman isn't in charge. Let's read some of the comments. At Friendo says, how about we just give the whole superhero BS a well-deserved break already? Cape Crusaders my dad jeans wearing arse. You can vomit up as many iterations of the same old story of the superpower having sociopath who comes to save the day against another superpower having sociopath. But buddy, ain't nothing gonna save us from ourselves in the end. Mm, mm, mm. Block hollow W 01 says block quote, decent enough solo outings for Wonder Woman and Aquaman. Excuse me? Stop playing down their success. Thank you. They have been huge hits for WB and DC, with the latter about to smash 1 billion at the box office, which it already did. Thank you. Gloss Boy with the Pikachu icon says, they should have stopped making any more Batman movies after Dark Knight Rises. Nothing will ever top that trilogy. Yeah, I disagree. I completely disagree. You know? Mantis says, can I just say that if WB/DC wants to see how their characters should be played, switch on to the Arrowverse. Not only are the individuals and teams well written and played, but they managed to do greater team crossovers exceedingly well, despite it being soap opera driven and old Felicity. That's not that. I just give up, man. I just give up. I give up, man. Lee Stoneman says, I've been digging for a positive comment. Let's stop talking like Affleck being bad is some kind of quote-unquote fact. It's not. And there are plenty of people who not only like his portrayal, but think it's the closest one to the source material so far. I agree. Shout out to Lee Stoneman. And this is an argument I've heard that WB should copy the Arrowverse. No, they really shouldn't. They really should not. With all due respect to the Arrowverse, and I like a lot of the actors and actresses on their respective series, what works for the Arrowverse, in my opinion, would translate horribly on the big screen. You know what I'm saying? And a lot of these actors and actresses on the Arrowverse shows, no disrespect to them, probably couldn't handle a movie, being in a movie, in an event like a BVS. You know what I'm saying? ID 22222. ID 2222392 says, am I the only person who thinks Ben Affleck was excellent as Batman? After Christian Bale, Affleck is the best Batman so far. I'm not gonna read the last part because I don't agree with that. Yeah, I agree. I think he was excellent as Batman, and I still think that him being in BVS made sense. You know what I'm saying? Brian Braddock says Affleck was not a bad Batman. You know what I'm saying? And I agree. Joe Hunter says, and soon as the Batman turns out successful, This article's writer will write about the next DCEU movie. And will it save the DCEU? And after that one is successful, they will write about the next DCEU movie. Thank you. Thank you. And whether or not it will be able to save the DCEU. And they will write the same about the next DCEU movie. And then the next. And then next. The real reason is, when will the hypocrisy-driven hate stop? Joe Hunter kind of edited it and said, I mean, the real question. And I completely agree. Because you never see these type of articles with the MCU movies. No one, after Ant-Man and the Wasp came out, no one came out and wrote an article saying, when will Marvel stop making mediocre sequels with drumming ants? Because, oh, you get buried alive. You're hating on the MCU. Leave Disney and Kevin Feige alone. You are not allowed to criticize the MCU. You must say only positive things. You know? Finally, Grumpy Aging Gamer says, Affleck's Batman is the closest to the comic than any other screen incarnation by far. And I'm not going to read that last part. And it's interesting, man. To me, shout out to Joe Hunter. You know, this is a part of what I've been saying, that there's this bias in amongst the media, bloggers, editors, what have you, with how they discuss DC's films. You know, sometimes I'm so convinced that some of these reviewers have, you know, their thoughts already pre-written and saved on a hard drive, and they just upload it to whatever site they're, you know, uploading it to. But the DCU, let's clarify, the DCU doesn't need saving. If we want to blame anybody, blame WB for not letting the 5-film plan unfold like it needed to, or like it should have. Blame WB for forcing unnecessary reshoots on Suicide Squad. You know? And that's just what it is. And again, I find it so funny that you never see these type of bitch-ass articles on Marvel movies. Because you can't seemingly diss Marvel. You know what I'm saying? And I really appreciate, again, I really appreciate that Ben Affleck played Batman like he did. You know what I'm saying? For the movie, for the scenario in the movie, it made sense. And regardless of what Matt Reeves does, I obviously don't know what he has, what all he has planned. The closest thing, the only thing we do know is that, again, he did say that it will be a Nord-driven film, and that's something I think is definitely going to benefit the movie. But other than that, we don't know Ben Affleck's status. We don't know Joe's status as Slade Wilson. Again, inspired casting. And shout out to Jay Oliva, man. I appreciate, again, he's another guy I definitely appreciate that for responding like he has these for pretty much all of last year. You know? And Biojet Rami, Batman on Film, posted a tweet on August 30th, 2018, and it says, Affleck never had a story. That's the core problem. It was doomed the moment he signed on to play Batman because everybody expected the great Ben Affleck, director of Argo, to write/direct a Batman film, and it would be a masterpiece. You gotta have a story and passion for it. He didn't. Jay Olivas responded and said, "Hi, Bill. The original Affleck script was the best Batman script I've ever read. Ben had a kick-ass story, and I believe that the audience and fans would have loved it." And man, man, when I, oh fuck, when I think about all that we could have gotten, all that we should have gotten, I get sad, man. I just get really frustrated. I get sad and I get frustrated. You know what I'm saying? And the idea or the possibility of Batman squaring off against Deathstroke. I mean, I'm sure most of you all have played Arkham Origins and saw how badass that shit was. The idea of Ben Affleck squaring off against Deathstroke in a movie, bruh, tell me that shit would not have been epic. You cannot tell me that shit would not have been epic, man. Dude. You know? And shout out to Zach for, again, casting Joe and Ben. You know what I'm saying? It's just frustrating, man. And but yeah, to end what has been a lengthy 27, almost 30-minute video, the DCU doesn't need saving. You know? WB, and yeah, I'm calling WB out once again. They just need to stop fucking interfering where they aren't needed. Something I've said 1,000 times. And I'll continue saying it until the movie show that they've learned their lesson. And honestly, to their credit, I think they have. You know, I think they have. Birds of Prey is going to be R-rated. That may not mean much to a lot of you all, but it's going to be R-rated. It's going to have a lighter budget. Black Mask is set to be in the movie. Huntress, Black Canary, you know. And I think WB has learned their lesson. I mean, the movies, in spite of what negativity is surrounding them, they've grossed quite a bit of money. You know, they've done really well in terms of finances, and that to me is an achievement in itself. You know, despite the tomato meter, although you see the stark contrast with the audience score, the movies have done exceptionally well. I, in fact, would say that if Suicide Squad had released in China, I think it would have grossed even more money. You know? So, to conclude, what again has been a very lengthy video, the DCEU doesn't necessarily need saving. What it needs is, and see, look at that. Look at that. Again. Look at that, bro. Look at the stark contrast before I conclude. But these movies are so bad. These movies aren't that good. These movies are so bad. You know? But there's no bias. There's no bias. But again, like I said, to conclude, the DCU doesn't need saving. What it needs is for WB to let the directors, actors, and producers and writers do his or her respective job. Stop interfering where they aren't needed. And what it really needs is for you bloggers and editors and Twitter users to stop trying to feed the world bullshit. Because Batman is going to be fine on its own. You know? You know? And that's all I got to say. You all subscribe, like. I'm sure you all are going to comment. And, yeah. I think I'm done.